More on the Ukraine crisis. I'm joined by Scott Bates from the U.S. state of Connecticut. He's an international affairs analyst and the president of the non-partisan public policy think tank, the Center for National Policy. Scott, why don't we start there with the UN Security Council? What's your take on all of this?
Well, look, the bottom line here is that for the first time since 1945, an international border has been violated in Europe, and it's been done by Russia against the sovereign state of Ukraine. It was done earlier against Crimea, and now once again. So there's a pattern here. I don't expect much Security Council action, although it'll be very interesting to see what China's take on this is. And I think it's a great opportunity for Chinese diplomacy to really try to bridge the gap here between Russia and the West, because this is an increasingly dangerous situation for all concerned. And when you're looking at international order in the 21st century, this is not the way for a great power to conduct itself.
If you were to give advice to those Chinese diplomats, what would you say?
I'd say that they've got to help Mr. Putin find a way out. It's very clear to me this is all about, it's actually from a position of weakness that Mr. Putin has taken these moves. He doesn't want Ukraine drawn into a Western orbit, so to speak. He needs to stop thinking in those total zero-sum game power politics ways of thinking. And I think that his Chinese friends could prevail upon him to walk back and be a statesman here and de-escalate this crisis, because he's painting himself in a corner here on the eve of the NATO summit, trying to embarrass the West with this invasion of a sovereign nation.
Scott, you make some points about Russia there and Putin, but the facts remain that about 80–90% of the people in these areas that are fighting, they voted for Yanukovych. They're not happy with the way things are going in Kiev. I mean, there's a lot of people who keep saying there needs to be, in fact, Putin himself said it earlier this week, there needs to be a ceasefire. This is an internal matter. At some point, doesn't Poroshenko need to reach out? I mean, doesn't there have to be some sort of level of agreement within the country itself?
Well, there's no doubt about that. But at the end of the day, we can't escape the fact that Russian military personnel are crossing an international border. And so you're right that there are problems inside of Ukraine, but they're being fueled by Russian interventions. So we really do need to step back from that. And you're right, it's ultimately going to be a political solution. There probably needs to be more devolution of authority, guarantee of minority rights. All these things are hallmarks of European integration over the last couple decades. But that has to be done in a peaceful fashion. You can't just do this by claiming that your soldiers are on vacation and they're going for a walk in Ukraine. That's really irresponsible conduct and dangerous.
The U.S. president had remarks today at the White House about this. He also spoke to the German chancellor on the phone about additional sanctions. Where do you see him taking this, and will those sanctions have much of an impact?
I'm not sure the sanctions would ultimately decide the issue, because for the Putin administration, this is a question of pride, national honor, and public statements about supporting Russians abroad. So I don't think that's going to be the key. It's going to be behind-the-scenes diplomacy, and that's why I say other great powers might play a very important role in trying to back the West and Russia off of this flashpoint. Neither side really wants this at the end of the day, and if everybody's interests can be respected, then it's possible that we might avoid a bigger conflagration. On the 100th anniversary of World War I, we have to remember that you can't always control violent events when they take place, and so I think everybody needs to remember that as this situation seems to be deteriorating.
Scott, how does this thing play out in the next week or so, or beyond?
I think what we can look for in the next few days is the NATO summit is coming up, and the West is going to come up with a coordinated response. It will probably be tougher sanctions. It may be some more assistance to Ukraine. And that is just going to kind of ramp up the situation. So this is the time for everybody to take a walk back from this and find a political way out. Otherwise, once again, this could get beyond the control of the great powers. It would actually get out of the control of Russia. We saw this in the Balkans in the 90s, where when you empower local actors, and give them supplies and give them backup like this. They can act very irresponsibly, and it can get very dangerous very quickly.
Scott Bates joining us from Hartford, Connecticut. Thank you.